Well, today's the day. We're finally going to answer the question of whether or not we can beat this game without spending any AP, so let's get right into it. Now, at the beginning of Act 3, we finally have the ability to break the damage cap, and in addition to that, we have some more exploration unlocked with Esquia's ability to fly. And we know our final objective is going to be heading to Lumiere, and we will stop by there, but for now, we have some other things that we want to get done. First priority is heading right back to the monolith, where if we make our way to the very top, there is another chromatic here. So as with the previous videos, we're just going to show kind of the first round of damage on these longer fights, and if things are going well, then we'll just skip to the end. If things start to go poorly, we'll jump to where they go poorly, so you can kind of follow along and see how things went for me for a lot of these longer fights anyway. So after the first round of hits, we can see the burn damage is doing more than all of our hits combined. So we're going to make note of that, and eventually that is going to be kind of the focus of our build. I don't know if you saw how early I tried to parry there, but just unbelievable. Minoko goes down, we skip forward, Verso goes down as well, and we're relying on Mael at this point, and she goes down. So one thing to note here, you can see he does still have some burn stacks applied. And when we bring in the reserve crew here, it will say he got burned, but no actual damage is applied. So I think from that, we're learning that if the person who applied the burn, or if multiple people applied burn, and they're no longer in the fight, then their burn damage, or their stacks in the burn damage pile, they don't count anymore. So that's something that's going to be important for a fight later on. See if we can get a counter and hopefully bring this fight to a close. Let's skip a little bit farther. CL goes down, and it's all up to Lune. One final counter, maybe. Alright, we got that. So with him out of the way, we have the combo attack 2 Picto. So once we get that mastered and put on everybody, that's just going to add a little bit more to our base damage and help us apply more burn stacks. Another thing we can do to get more burn stacks is stop by this guy, who will drop a nice weapon for Lune. But he is a flyer, and right now Mael and Lune have elemental stuff, and this guy absorbs fire, so I brought the other three in. And again, we're relying on RNG for the most part. If we can get counters, that'll be great, but we know by now that I can't really rely on those, so this is going to end up being one of the longer fights.
Careful now.
You'll see by the first attack he does, the parries are not going well. So let's skip a little bit further in, and we see that CL does eventually die. Minoko is on his last legs, and we're counting on him to finish off the fight right here, which he does. So with that chromatic out of the way, we get the Angerim. And so what that does basically is every turn Lune has, she gets a fire stain for free, and for every fire stain, she applies 2 burns per hit. So that's going to help us stack up burn really quickly. Now back at camp, we want to start working on our relationship level with Esquia, and that takes us to a fight with Francois. It's a 1v1 with Verso, and we did swap out his weapon that was doing the double hits to shred down shield quickly, but this is an easy enough fight that we really don't need it anyway. First hit that we got without shield killed him. So with that out of the way, we have Esquia's relationship bumped up to level 6, and once you get him that far, then you unlock the ability to swim underwater, which we're going to use later to gather some colors of Lumina, as well as go into the final area. But first we want to stop back by Frozen Hearts and take down the chromatic that I did not fight the first time through this area. He does have a pretty large health pool, so I figured saving him until after we had unlocked the damage cap would make a little bit more sense, and then that would also give us a chance to check how the burn damage stacks up against somebody with a little bit more health. Verso even hitting the weakness with those 3 hits, that's about 60,000 damage. Minoko's a little over the damage cap. So between all of these guys combined, we probably did, what, like 120, 140,000. The burn itself did like 289,000. So as you can see, the burn is pretty good, and we're definitely going to be relying on that whenever we can. As soon as we can get that new weapon we got for Lune maxed out a little bit higher, we're going to swap her in instead of Minoko, because right now he does not have any way to apply burn. So we definitely want to be focusing on applying as many burn stacks as possible. One last attack from Mael finishes this guy off. We don't really get anything other than the upgrade materials, which we need a lot of. And so we head to Dark Shores. And we came through here at the very beginning to grab some Pictos, but we couldn't fight the enemies. Now we can actually use this group here to farm up some upgrade materials as well as some pretty decent XP. And these guys aren't too bad for us at this point. We just mostly apply the burn, and that will take down a majority of their health, and then anything that the burn doesn't handle, the basic attacks will. So one more attack here will finish off this last guy. We're basically getting 3 upgrade materials and 1.2 million XP. So now with that underwater ability, we can go around, gather up all the colors of Lumina, and then we are going to head into the Gestral Village to drop off the last of our journals and get the colors of Lumina from him as well. We're going to make a quick stop into the Endless Tower. We're only going to do the first 3 trials, and that's mostly to get a Picto from the Duelist. So kind of the strategy we developed is applying burn to the main target and then kind of distributing our damage across the other 2. So skipping ahead, we take care of the side guys. The burn did a lot. Sure, the other 2 died, but we got it done. And the Picto that we wanted here is Greater Defenseless, because if we could bring their defense down, that's more damage for us. Moving forward, we finally get to go to the fountain. We did all the friendly Nevron quests, so when we talk to them, we get 100 more color Illumina. So we're doing pretty good on that. We're going to make a quick stop into Lumiere to go to the trash can here, where since we talked to the guy at the beginning, we get a perfect chroma catalyst. And then towards the end, we have one more chromatic that's going to give us another thing that we want for our build. So since he's by himself, we can focus all the damage on him. As you can see, even hitting a weakness, the actual strike damage is not so high. Verso's higher, and he's not even hitting a weakness. So really, it is going to be coming down to a lot of relying on that burn damage here. So after Minoko's second attack, let's see just how good the burn damage is starting to be at this point. I'd say that's a fair amount. And we get augmented counter 3. So given that we're relying on burn and counters, along with our basic attacks, having any way to increase that damage helps a lot. There is a merchant at the very end of the area, right before we go to the final boss, who after we fight him, we can get the full strength Picto, which is again just a minor damage increase. So back on the world map, we have a boss fight we can do here, and this guy resists our damage, but we're going to see if the burn damage can pull through. Get through the first round of attacks here. I mean, our basic attacks are barely over the damage cap, so that didn't really help us in terms of having the painted power Picto and everything, but without the painted power Picto, it also caps your burn damage, so we definitely want to make sure we have those. And as you can see, the 208,000 we got from the burn is a lot more helpful. We manage our first string of parries here, so we're going to skip a little bit further into the fight and see how things go. Everybody stayed alive, and we were able to deliver the final blow, and we get Breaking Death, which is going to be handy if we can find a way to intentionally kill our people, or if they just die on their own, then at least the break bar is full, and now that we can break people with our basic attacks, that's just another way to get some extra damage in. Next up, we're going to stop by the Dark Gestral Arena, where there's just 3 quick fights in a row here, and that will give us one of the very last pieces of our build. So these are pretty quick and easy fights. I just brought Mael because right now she's the one that applies burn the most effectively, and I figured more stacks of burn was better damage than smaller stacks with higher damage overall. So the first fight out of the way, 29 seconds. Jump right into the second fight. Same thing, we'll try and get the burn applied on the main guy and then focus on one of the side enemies. And if we look at turn order, we can try and make it so we're applying the burn to the enemies that are going to go first. In this case, we're going to get burn on everybody before they even have a chance to go. So hopefully the burn damage on its own will take care of them before they have a chance to attack us back. And as you can see, that worked. So moving into the third battle here. So given this guy has a bunch of shield, we're going to have to focus all the damage on him on our first turn just so that we can get any burn damage. Because otherwise it just would have taken off one shield when the burn was applied. So we get him out of the way. And using the turn order again, we knew we were going to be able to go before either of these side guys. So we apply the burn on them and then hope that it will take them out. And it does once again. So things are looking up. And from doing those 3 fights, these guys will give us combo attack 3. So now we finally have the 4 string of basic attacks every time we attack, which is nice. But Golgra did not like the idea of us coming up here to an arena that she did not sanction, so she wants to have a quick fight with Mael. And really, this is like probably one of the weakest versions of Golgra, and especially with the damage that we're outputting now, there's really nothing to show here. Dies to the first burn damage that she takes. Next up, we're going back to camp to increase our relationship levels with Monoko, Lune, and Mael. And the reason we want to do this is because they will give us some side quests, and we're gonna go do those side quests because there's some bosses associated with those as well. So during Monoko's, there's a quick duel with him as well. I'm not sure if that counts as a boss fight or not, but I figured might as well show that. Verso's also applying burn, so the burn damage coming from him is pretty good, so that fight goes smoothly. And then, like I said, Mael and Lune, we bump up their relationship level until the next thing they do is tell us to do a side quest. So, moving to Lune's side quest, we have a fight with the chromatic glissando here. And I don't know why, but I somehow took off the painted power picto on Mael here. So all the burn damage that she applied and everything is going to be cut way down. I think that she was the one mastering the picto, and when I swapped things around, I forgot to activate it in the Lumina section after she had it equipped as a picto, so our damage is kind of nerfed for this fight, but we'll see if we can make it work. And this is where I learned about what I was saying before, where if you don't have painted power on, even though Lune's also applying burn, because Mael was the first one to apply the burn, the damage was based off of her damage, and so we were capped at 9,999. So that was some good knowledge. Moving ahead here, nobody's died yet. We have taken some hits, but we do manage to bring him down, but that's not the end of the fight, because he's going to bring in 3 flyers. And we'll see if we can get some good RNG. With the burn on that one, we know that they're going to die. So we focus on the next one. Manage to get burn on them as well. So really we just need to focus on the last one. And I don't know why I didn't. For some reason we're just attacking whoever is in the turn order. We should have just tried to apply that burn across the board, but we do get a counter on this last guy here, and that takes care of the fight. Next up, we go to the Sacred River for Monoko side quest, and Golgra once again wants to fight with us. And this is a little bit harder of a version, still not as hard as her final version that we're going to do later on, but it's a 2v1 instead of a 1v1, so that helps us a little bit. And Verso does have the ability to apply some burn, so hopefully that burn damage is going to do the work that it has been in the previous fights up to this point. Get Minoko's attacks out of the way.
So much power.
And it looks like it didn't quite finish her off, so she is going to go Super Saiyan, and we're going to have to deal with one of her attacks, but thankfully it's an easy one. Next up, we head into the Reacher, and that is for Mael's side quest. And there is one chromatic here on the way up to the top, so we're going to knock that fight out real quick. And unfortunately, this is one of the ones that is immune to fire damage. And for some reason, I brought both Mael and Lune, who are using fire weapons. So we're just going to heal him up real quick before Verso gets a chance to do his turn. And we'll see what kind of damage Verso can do.
You're outmatched.
Not bad. And he does apply burn, but because the guy is immune to burn, even when his turn comes around, he's actually not going to take any damage from that burn. So we're just going to be skipping Mael and Lune and getting right back to Verso as soon as possible so we can try and finish this guy off.
Cut him down.
Thankfully, Verso had enough damage in his basics that the fight didn't go too poorly. Now at the very top, we have a short little fight with Alicia, and that is a 1v1 between her and Mael. And it's really not even worth showing, because not only is the basic attack damage pretty high, we get 3 turns in a row, so we're not even going to get a chance to see what the burn would have done. So yeah, that was kind of a pushover. But we do get some more upgrade materials, so we're slowly getting all of our weapons up to 33. Next up, we have the Endless Night Sanctuary. First fight in here is a rematch with the Ultimate Sakapatate. Get rid of that shield and apply the burn. Get the burn going on this guy. And now we're pretty sure that they're going to die to the burn. But just to be absolutely sure, we have Lune apply some more stacks to the thicker one of the two. And then Verso will add a little bit more to the one that was almost about to die anyway. So skipping to the end of the fight, the two on the side did die to the burn damage. We've applied quite a few stacks to the Ultimate Sakapatate, but he has a ton of health. So he actually managed to survive a few. But he does eventually succumb to the burn. And as you can see, the burn damage is sitting for over 1 million now, so we're feeling pretty good about that. A little further on in the area, we have a chromatic. Thankfully, he is by himself, but he does have some shield. Now that we have hit him 4 times per turn, though, that's not really an issue. We take all that shield down in 1 turn while simultaneously applying some burn. Lune is going to come in and apply even more burn. By the time her turn's done, we're going to be darn close to 100 burn stacks. Verso applies a little bit, not nearly as much as the other two, but he helps out where he can. And Mael's speedy enough that she gets to go 1 more time before his turn, so he is now broken at this point. He's got a ton of burn, and we're going to see what kind of damage that does on him. Not the best. So there's been some inconsistency with the burn damage, as you can see. And I haven't, by this point, figured out what is causing that inconsistency, but we do get it nailed down later on. Get this fight done, a couple more upgrade materials, and we move on back out to the world map where we have another chromatic. This guy was probably out of my league for the levels and the weapon upgrades that I had at this point, but we decided to give it a try anyway. Hoping that we could rely on that burn damage. We're still kind of under the impression that Mael is doing the most damage with her burn. And I should have figured out at this point, especially given how much more damage Verso's doing with his basic attacks, that his burn is the most effective burn. But I don't put that together for quite some time. And we're really not worried about this guy's flowers or his shielding or any of that with how many basic attacks we have. So once again, the focus is just getting as much burn stacks on him as possible and trying to survive any of the attacks he throws at us. No counters there, so let's skip a little bit further ahead. As you can see, everybody is dead. Lune is holding on by a thread, and he is about to absorb all of his flowers. So it's up to Lune versus a bajillion shields, and she's about to get crushed. Does get the counter, but all that does is take down one shield, and he gets to go again. Calling in the backup team. These guys have been kind of brought up to the level that everybody else has. They have only 3 of the 4 combos because they don't have quite the same amount of colors of Lumina as everybody else yet. But they will be more than sufficient to take down this guy, especially if we can get a counter attack.
So much power.
So with greater defenseless and everything, if we can manage to get the counter, we should have more than enough damage. Which we do. Next up we have the Sky Island, where there is one more chromatic, and he is another one that starts out with some shield on him. But as we've said a couple of times now, shields are no longer a concern, because mostly our attacks aren't even really what we're focusing on. We're really just wanting to get that burn damage stacked up between Mayel and Lune. And Verso is the only other one that has a weapon that can apply some burn damage. So we're focusing on these 3 as the main party pretty much for the rest of the game. And this guy is a lot slower. I think he was probably one of the ones that we could have done as soon as we got into Act 3. We kind of waited a while, so we don't even get to see what the burn does to him because he just dies to our basic attacks. Next up, we head to the Isle of Eyes, where we have another chromatic, and another shielded chromatic at that. Same thing, try and get as much of the shield gone while applying burn. Our basic attacks really aren't doing too bad of damage to him, but I don't think our first few strings of attacks here are going to be enough to take him all the way down. But he does get broken. So when he does take that first tick of burn damage, it is going to be amplified quite a bit. So we're finally starting to figure things out with how the burn damage is being calculated. So as you can see here, that did 1.2 million. So the being stunned did help a lot. Back on the world map, we have the chromatic Patank. I still have not learned how to pronounce that. But he is very much a pushover. We'll get our burn damage stacked up as quickly as we can. And I believe with this guy, he doesn't even get to go because the burn damage is enough to finish him off. Yeah. So it's always nice when we get to see that. Almost 1 million damage on that. Pretty good. Next we stop by the merchant to get some new clothes and stuff, and then there is a chromatic right next to him. So as you can see, our basic attacks are slowly getting a little bit stronger each time. A few fights ago, Mayel wasn't quite even hitting the damage cap, or the previous damage cap, and now everybody is at least hitting over that previous damage cap. So we are going to slowly start working our way toward a more damage-oriented build. Right now you can see on Mayel we're still running like Inmadian Res and stuff. And when you pair that with Shield Affinity, that is a decent damage boost, but the Lumina spent between those two skills could be better applied elsewhere, especially when we're kind of hurting for Lumina at this point. See, Lune goes down. Our burn stacks are well over 100 at this point, so we're hoping that that will finish him off after Mael's turn here. And it does. And right above that area, we have yet another chromatic. We jump into this fight and eliminate that shield right off the bat. And he is weak to fire, so that definitely helps us out whenever we see that.
Let's push forward.
But even without the weakness, Verso is still just doing so much more damage than everyone else. You would think that I would be putting him as the party leader. I do figure it out, just not this early. So with him being stunned and burned and everything else, we get some pretty good burn damage on that one, and we can finally go to the big snake in the sky. Now, this one, I don't know how you guys feel about it, because since we aren't spending our AP, and his whole mechanic is at the beginning of his turn, he is going to eat our AP, have we broken the rules? Because, I mean, technically, we're not spending AP, right? We didn't spend it, but our AP is, in fact, doing damage to him, right? Because he's going to consume it all. He's going to blow up because of it. It's going to do, like, 500,000 damage. So, in essence, because our AP was used, damage was done. So, I don't know. It's kind of a gray area, I will say. I don't think it breaks the rules because we are not actively doing it. We're not like going out of our way to feed it to him or anything. That's just a mechanic of the boss. But I could see the argument there that that might be something that invalidates the whole challenge. But luckily, there's nothing we need from this guy. The only thing that would mean is that we can't consider this an all bosses run if he invalidates it. So one way or the other, we're going to continue to find out if the rest of the challenge is doable, but for this guy, we'll leave it up to you guys whether or not this counts as any kind of rule breaking. See Lune with all 4 stains every time she's hitting. That's applying 8 stacks. So she's getting a ton of stacks of burn every single time she attacks, and she attacks 4 times per turn. So it's crazy to see the burn stacks going that high. I'd never focused on really doing burn damage in any of the other builds that I'd tried up to this point. So kind of cool. And he goes down pretty quickly. We do get another perfect chroma catalyst off of him, but Energy Master is useless to us. But we can at least use that chroma catalyst to get another weapon 233. Next we make a quick stop into the Crimson Forest, where at the end we can take on the chromatic Gold Chevalier, however you say that one. Take out the 2 guys on the side. And they'll die to the burn at that point, so we can focus on the middle guy. And what you'll notice this time is Mael applied the burn damage to the 2 on the side, whereas Lune applied the burn damage to the one in the middle. So it would have been nice to see what kind of damage Lune was doing with her burn versus Mael's. Maybe I would have put things together a little bit sooner, but he died to our basic attacks before that could happen, so. Alright, with that fight out of the way, we're going to move to the Flying Manor, where we have 4 kind of rematches before we can take on the main boss of the area. So starting off, we have the Dueliste. And he has a huge health pool, but we're kind of going to just rely on our burn damage again. And this is a longer fight. We're not really doing a whole lot with our basic attacks. He's resisting our fire damage and everything, so kind of a worst case scenario type of fight here. Jump to the end of the fight here, see what happened. Mayel has gone down, Lune is on her last legs, but luckily Verso is able to finish it off. And that's another perfect chroma catalyst, so we can have 3 weapons now at level 33, so that feels good. Next up we have the Go Blue. And we face so many of them at this point that this guy is really not a concern. And even in the game, they don't really consider him to be on par with the other 3 in the area, because as you can see, he does not give us a perfect chroma catalyst, so really just a pushover fight as far as that's concerned. Third boss of the area, we have another Lamp Master. Let's see how we do on the first round of damage here. Mayel is hitting quite a bit harder than she used to be. Getting that burn applied. You can see we're doing 1.4 million in burn damage now, so that feels good. And even our counterattacks are a lot stronger by this point, because we have finally mastered all of our augmented counter pictos and applied them to the main party at the very least. So one final counter here from Verso, and that puts the third boss to bed. And we do get a perfect chroma catalyst from him, so he was apparently a good one. Final boss fight of the area before we can take on the real boss. We have 3 of these different elemental eviques. So we did swap out Mayel because we didn't want to bring 2 fire people in, because the way this fight works is we have a rotating immunity. So you can see on their health bars the shield icons. Whoever has the shield icon is invulnerable unless they've been stunned. So we just wanted to have multiple ways to apply damage and not be relying on like Mayel and Lune, their turn coming up when the flame guy was the only one that could take damage at that time. So it ends up working out. We take out the 2 on the side, just kind of through luck and RNG with who got shielded. And then coming up on the final attack here, he's unleashing everything on us, but at some point over the last 30 hours, I did finally learn how to parry a little bit better. And we take him down with that. And we do get another perfect chroma catalyst off of him, so pretty much everybody by this point is able to have a fully upgraded weapon. Moving on to the final boss of the area, we're warned multiple times not to do it, but we're going to do it anyway. So we did over prep a little bit, I would think. My first time in my very first run taking on this boss, things went very poorly. She was healing off of everything. My ability to counter was very bad, so I would always take at least 1 hit, and she was healing like 500,000 every time I would take a hit. We learned from that, so we prepped quite a bit going into this, and I think we might have been a little bit of overkill. For what is supposed to be one of the harder boss fights in the game. Our first round of attacks and the first bit of burn did quite a bit of damage to her, a lot more than I did my first time around. And basically at this point, it's kind of a done deal. Burn damage alone is hitting for more than she would even heal with. As long as we can parry, which, like I said, we finally learned how to do at this point. Even with the loss of Lune, that doesn't really matter. Sure, we lose her burn stacks and everything, so the burn damage is going to be a little bit lower. But it's still enough. And as you can see, the burn damage hitting for over 2 million at this point. And 1 more perfect chroma catalyst, so I think that's the 5th one now. So now everybody should, at the very least, have 1 weapon fully maxed out. So we can finally do the final painting workshop. Talk to the final little boy here. He will give us the last piece that we need. And we're going to take that down to the statue, and that will open up the boss arena that was locked in the back. So Now going into the fight at the end here, I was kind of concerned because on my first playthrough, he definitely put me in my place, but I'm feeling confident that we can handle this one. So as usual, starting off, applying as much burn as possible. Our basic attacks, even though they are hitting a lot harder, they're still not doing a whole lot to the health bar, so that is a bit concerning. And he is resisting Verso's attacks, who is our primary sort of damage dealer. But jumping to the end of the fight, you can see nobody died. We managed to parry a few things, and the burn damage finishes him off. Moving forward, there was one more chromatic on the map that I somehow missed when I was flying around earlier trying to clean up all the world bosses. So we're going to get him out of the way before we move on to one of the final areas. And this guy's pretty chunky too, as you can see. We're doing really good damage. He's not resisting it. A full string of 4 with Lune hitting for over 80,000. But even after both Mael and Lune's double turns, the health bar has not moved very significantly, so. Here's hoping that the burn will do something. Not bad. Brings him under half. Luckily we get an easy attack out of him. Able to get some counter damage. Just applies a little bit more burn just to guarantee that we finish him off, and he dies to the burn damage. So we have our strategy, everything's looking good, and we're ready to head into the toughest area of the game. There is one chromatic in here as well, the last chromatic that we're going to fight. And I definitely underestimated him, if anything. I really hadn't done much farming or anything. I think at this point we're only around like level 83 or something. So we farmed up a little bit. We farmed up enough upgrade materials to get our weapons up to 33. And given how much damage I was doing to some of the other enemies, I came in here pretty confident. But based on what you're going to see in this fight, that overconfidence was misplaced. So we're going to skip a little bit further ahead here. As you can see, Mael and Lune have died. Verso is about to join them. Do manage to get the parry on the Void Orb. But can we rely on parrying his actual attacks? No, we cannot. So he is pretty low, so I'm feeling confident that the backup squad is going to be able to clean him up at this point, even though I've clearly not learned his attack patterns, and my primary damage dealers are all dead, and none of the burn damage is going to apply anymore. So it's really going to come down to being able to get some counters off, or just basic attack him the rest of the way down. With our breaking death ability, though, he is on the verge of breaking, so that will help our damage output just a little bit. And Minoko and CL aren't doing too bad damage-wise, so skipping to the end, we do eventually bring him down and get another perfect Chroma Catalyst. So if we have to make any changes, we at least have some leeway there. Now, leading up to Simon. I attempted this fight multiple times before this, and it went very poorly. So I did farm the merchant behind us here and the group of enemies. Not very efficiently, because using basic attacks only, it was kind of a pain. So that took about 5 hours to get everybody to the low to mid 90s. But during that time, we did learn that Verso's burn does the most damage, so we are relying on him to get the burn damage applied, even though he's not doing a whole lot of stacks. As long as he's the first one to get burn damage on the enemy, all the stacks after that are going to apply off of his base damage, it seems like. And so we're going to stack that up as much as possible, hope that we can parry some attacks.
I'll do it.
Some decent counter damage out of Lune. He does take her health down, so that's a bit of a bummer going into
Our chance.
the second phase.
Now was our chance.
But we do have at death's door on her, so that will actually not be too big of a deal. It's just going to be relying on parries. And he kind of one-hits us anyway, so whether they're at full health or at 1 health, we're going to die no matter what he does. So I think we have enough burn at this point that will finish him off, and it does. You can see the burn damage is now over 4 million, thanks to us figuring out that Verso's damage is a lot better. If anyone is aware of the health pool going into the second phase here, you know that that is not going to be enough. 4 million is pretty low. But we are relying on the strategy that we've kind of perfected at this point. Just burn, burn, burn.
No margin for error.
3.6, not bad, and that's only with Verso at rank B, I believe, so if we manage to get him up to rank S, that burn damage is going to be even higher. And as you can see, his counters aren't too bad either. And him being pulled down to 1 health, he's going to activate at death's door as well, so that will help our burn damage just a little bit. I think we also put longer burn on him so that his burn stacks will not fall off, and then we'll be relying on someone else's. So as you can see there, we got 4.5 million off of that burn, so things are looking pretty good. And we almost parried the full string there. Verso got up to S rank, so that would have helped a lot, but unfortunately we choked. So everything's kind of reset damage-wise. And Mael was the one to apply the burn after everybody came back up. So now we're going off Mael's damage, so as you can see now it's only down to 1.9 million. So that's a pretty big hit to our overall damage, but hopefully we can make it work. More stacks definitely help, but we do have some parrying to do if we're going to be able to survive into the third phase. Mael's counters not hitting anywhere near as hard as the others. Lune's back down to 1, so her damage gets boosted a little bit by at death's door. But mostly with her 4 stains, she is just applying massive amounts of burn stacks for us.
The dance begins.
After Mael's turn here, let's see what the burn is looking like. 2.3, so the few stacks did help a little bit.
Careful, Verso. Time to hit. The dance begins.
Time to end this.
So we have him at the point now that the next set of burn damage is going to push him into phase 3, so our main party is gone. And with Minoko and CL not able to apply burn with their weapons, all of the remaining stacks of our burn damage don't matter. So it's really going to come down to our ability to parry at this point. So let's see how that goes. Alright, CL does get a good counter in, 1.3 million. But he does attack at light speed, and this is the one that try again. I would say probably 90% of the time I screwed it up. There was the occasional one or two that I did manage. But yeah, that is not the attack that I look forward to. Thankfully, these guys do have Survivor, so we didn't lose our second chance yet. And we get a good counter out of Minoko. You can see these guys are pretty even damage-wise. So whether CL or Minoko goes down, doesn't particularly matter. Just as long as we can keep one of them up and countering. So we're down to CL's last life. We do get the break at least, so she gets a little bit of bonus damage there. Minoko takes advantage of that as well. And now, Sword of Lumiere. And a lot of these attacks from the previous attempts that I had made at this guy, I have downed pretty well. I still choke every once in a while, that's me. But for the most part, I'm feeling pretty confident about a lot of these attacks. And since most of our damage is actually coming from the counters compared to our basic attacks, given that he's getting 3 turns in a row, that's more beneficial for us than anything else, as long as I'm able to counter. So getting a good double counter there is nice. And Minoko goes down. But thankfully he still had his second chance, so he's not out of it yet. However, the downside of him going multiple times in a row like that is our greater defenseless falls off, and he's not taking as much damage as he ought to be. We get a crit this time, 1.4. Feeling good about that, but greater defenseless has fallen off, and I choked. So CL is out of the fight at this point. So it's all coming down to Minoko. And we do break him, and he does it. So that is Simon down. Now we do have another fight with Golgra to get out of the way. We'll try out the weapon we got from Simon just to see how it does. It also applies burn, but it's RNG based. You have a 20% chance per hit to apply burn, whereas the other weapon, it applies burns on critical. So that weapon is better for our purposes of applying burn, but I just wanted to test this out in a quick fight against Golgra and see how it did. Our counter damage, really good, and we don't even get to really see how much burn we could have done with a decent stack, but she goes down. And we can go back to Endless Tower to finish that off. So after we made our way to the very end, we have the fight with Painted Love. And this is an interesting one because we have two enemies that share a health bar, so we can apply our burn between the both of them. And I don't know how that works necessarily. Is it better to have all of our burn applied to one person, or is it better to have it spread out? They do take the burn damage separately, unfortunately. So as you can see on their turn order, the curator's going to go first, and so his burn stacks are going to apply. And that did pretty decent burn damage, but these guys have a really high health pool. Counter damage isn't bad, and now when she goes, since we didn't apply nearly as much burn to her, the burn damage on her was not good at all.
Go again.
Time to hit big.
Let's have some fun. Cut him down.
So much potential. Overflowing with energy.
Maximum damage. Let's carve a path.
Blades sharp. Blades sharp. Take cover.
She's got enough stacks now that we're at least hitting the burn damage for 1,000,000. And we get a gradient, which thankfully those are a lot easier to counter than the regular attacks, so we managed not to choke on that one. And just continuing to try and get those burn stacks to the moon.
I can do it.
Russo did hit A rank as well, so that's going to help up the damage even more.
I'm ready. A storm is coming. Not looking good.
So we see that she's going to be the next one to go, so as a last-ditch effort, we try to apply some more burn to her, hoping it would finish the fight. Unfortunately, not quite, so we have to survive one more string of attacks from her.
Bring it on.
Danger! Take cover! Ready to evade.
So, with that out of the way, we are finally on to the very end of the game. We have one last fight here against Renoir.
Let's carve a
Obviously, he's balanced for us having done this towards the beginning of Act 3 rather than after taking on all the other more challenging things. So he doesn't even survive the first two attacks from Verso. But he does get healed back up. We're going to skip the cutscene in the middle there. And the burn alone finishes him off again, but we have to wait until his next turn, so we're just going to quickly run through everyone. And you know, we decided to give CL and Minoko some spots back in the main party for this. We knew we weren't going to need the big damage, so wanted to finish off, give those guys a chance to shine. But since our burn damage finished him off right away in phase 2 here, he gets taken out by Mael, and that will finish off the fight. We do have one last fight here before the game is technically over. I make the only correct choice and choose to fight as Verso. Verso is incredibly overpowered by this point, so Mael does not stand a chance. And with that, we have answered the question. Yes, you can beat the game without spending AP. So thank you all for watching. Oh wait, I forgot about the clip from the beginning. Yeah, I choked.